Alright, what's up guys? Welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh video. Just going to be a quick video today talking a little bit about corrected art Dark Paladin. Now for those of you who don't know, Dark Paladin, first edition for Magician's Force, has two different artworks. There's the error artwork, which is the one on the right, and the corrected art, which is the one on the left. This is the one you pull from the pack, but it wasn't actually the art that they were supposed to use for Magician's Force, so they then ran a promotion, Upper Deck that is, where you could send that in and they would send you back this corrected one on the left. Now historically, collectors always assumed that the one on the left, the corrected art, had to be a lot rarer because realistically not that many people actually sent in their error artworks as a kid to get it replaced for the corrected one in 2003. And as a result, it has a much higher price point as well. Nowadays, there's a lot of controversy around the card, and I feel like pretty much everyone is either in the camp of corrected art is terrible, it's way overprinted, should be worth nothing, or they love the card and think it's way better than the error artwork. And I think the big problem, which is what we're going to talk about today, which people don't necessarily grapple with properly when they're talking about this card, is the difference between rarity of a card in general and the rarity of its condition. And this is very relevant to the Dark Paladin debate. Now the first thing I want to say is that it's true, if Dark Paladin was only available, this corrected art version, in the handful of copies that were sent in by people. I've only met a couple of collectors ever who told me they actually used that promotion. Then it would be an insanely rare card. But the reason that it's not as rare as that is that there's a lot of copies which made their way onto the market later on, many years after this promotion took place, as a result of Upper Deck employees, after they lost control of the game, just taking these cards from the factory and flipping them onto other people. So I'm sure most of you guys have already seen, there's some pictures out there of like stacks of 20, 30, 40 corrected art Dark Paladins. There have been stories in the past of people subbing 15, 20, 30 copies at a time to PSA. And that's what makes people scared about investing in the card when they see that kind of stuff. Now, what that means, in practice, those stacks of 20, 30, 40 copies, that's still a very small number of cards when you're comparing that to how many of a set card like this one on the right are printed. That's tens, if not hundreds of thousands for a print run. However, all of those copies, which who knows how many it was, it could have been a few hundred, could have been a few thousand, that were leaked from the factory like around 2010, 2009. Those copies are all in mint condition. Now this one on the left, which I've had for quite a few years, this is actually one of those exact copies. So I'm only the third owner of this card. I bought this from someone who bought it from an Upper Deck employee. I think he bought it in 2009 or 2010. The guy had a whole stack of them. He was selling for like 30 bucks each. This is one of those exact cards. So as a result, it's like pack fresh condition, which doesn't necessarily mean flawless, but to be honest, on the whole, they're great shape because these never even went through the same factory sorting process that a card has to go through when it goes into a pack, like the one on the right. So they don't tend to have like waxing or anything like that. So yeah, the end result is the overall population of this card, 100% is lower than the one on the right. You just have to go on eBay or TCG Player or Card Market, anything, and look at the number of raw copies available. And there are always many, many times more error artworks available than corrected arts. However, where it gets interesting is when you talk about PSA Tens. Because for PSA Tens, it's the exact opposite. I don't have the number for like all of the PSA Tens put together, which one has more. It probably is the corrected art, but whatever happens, it's a lot closer than the overall rarity of the card would suggest. And the reason for that is exactly what I've just been talking about. Pretty much every Dark Paladin out there was put into circulation many years after Magician's Force came out, and pretty much went straight into the collection of a serious collector. So those are all in mint condition, whereas the Dark Paladin on the right, even if it has a higher print run, none of those went into circulation after 2003. 99% of MFC boxes would have been opened around the time of release. And those cards would have been played with like any other set card. And so the probability of one of those making it through to 2022, like we're in now, without ever being played with or damaged in some other way, is far lower than with the corrected art Dark Paladin. And on top of that, being a set card from Magician's Force, which is one of the hardest sets to grade in old school Yu-Gi-Oh!, you get a lot of issues on the error artwork that you don't get on the corrected art. So I already mentioned things like waxing, but also on the centering front, the error artwork Dark Paladins tend to be really badly tilted. You can see this one's way off center top to bottom. I'm not saying all corrected arts are centered, but on the whole, they have much better centering than the error artworks. So when you put all of those factors in, what that means is that despite corrected art Dark Paladin being a rarer card, in PSA 10, it's actually just as abundant, if not more abundant, than the error artwork. And if we're considering the question of like, is it a good investment in PSA 10? I would also say it kind of falls flat on that mark as well. Because whereas with the error art Dark Paladin, you can say with confidence that there's no one out there who has 30, 40, 50 pack fresh copies still just sitting in a draw that they've had for 10, 15 years. Which is the case with corrected art Dark Paladin. If it can happen once or twice, then it can happen more than that. So when you put that all together, it means that effectively the population of the error artwork is safer than the corrected art. Because A, it's harder to grade, so when you have a pack fresh copy, that's less likely to convert to a gem mint grade. And B, you know that there aren't going to be those stashes out there that I've just been mentioning. So to be honest, guys, that's pretty much already getting towards the end of what I wanted to say in this video. It's kind of more of a balanced view of the Dark Paladins, if you like. At the end of the day, I do think, without any doubt, the corrected artwork is rarer. And it's 100% justified that it has a higher price as a raw copy, because seriously, the availability of this card raw is just much, much lower than the error art. Not only because people have always subbed it, or been more likely to sub it, being a higher value card for a much longer time, but also just because there are not as many out there due to the means of distribution, which are completely different between the two cards. So overall, I'm not going to say don't buy a corrected art Dark Paladin. I think it's an iconic card, it has a great story, and it's just a big part of collecting old school Yu-Gi-Oh! It's one of those Grail tier cards, and it always has been for many, many years. So I think it's a perfectly valid card to buy, but I do agree with the people who say that PSA 10 is a risky investment. I wouldn't spend a huge amount on a PSA 10 because if the kind of stuff that we've seen happen already quite a few times with Dark Paladin, where a bunch of those corrected arts get found from an ex-employee or whatever it might be, if that can happen as many times as it's already happened, then realistically that can still happen again in the future, and you can still get a bunch more PSA 10s hitting the market. So yeah, that's all I've got for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope it kind of gave you a more balanced view of the whole error art, corrected art, Dark Paladin debate. And with that being said, this is Schlost signing out, and I hope you guys all have a great day.